Photo imaging and post-processing are the two critical phases that follow the press of the shutter in digital photography, transforming the captured file into a final image. While often used to interchangeably, they represent distinct true continuous parts of the photographic workflow. Photography as a science, because there is a basic principles of physics that govern success. Photography relies on measurable physical principles. Success and capturing the image depends on understanding and controlling the factors. Photography as art, because its beauty is subjective. While the mechanics of are scientific, the final result is driven by creative choice and aesthetic interpretation. Three basic types of photography. First is landscape, photos of nature and scenery. And this is the example of landscape. And the second is portrait, photos focusing on a person. And this is the example of portrait. And last one is the documentary, photos that tell real life story. And this is the example of the documentary. Exposure. An exposure is a measure of how bright a photo it is, what it's saved to your memory card. Sometimes referred to finished image. Exposure is affected by four things. First is the light. Light is the raw material of photography. All three elements of exposure triangle are simple mechanism to manage how light is captured. Second is shutter speed. The role of shutter speed is the duration of the camera sensor as exposed to light. It is measured in seconds or fractions of a second. Third is aperture. Aperture is the size of the opening in the lens that lets light through. Last one is the ISO. ISO is the camera sensor sensitivity to light. It is represented by a number.
Overexposed photo versus underexposed photo. Overexposed photo is an overexposed image is too bright. This happens when too much light enter the camera, causing highlights to lose details and appear washed out or white. So the underexposed photo is an image is too dark. This happens when there is not enough light reaching the camera sensor, resulting in shadows with light or no detail. Overexposed means an image is too bright, losing detail in the highlights, the brightest parts. So while the underexposed means it's too dark, losing detail in a shadow, the darkest part. In digital photography, it's generally tourist underexposed because it's often easier to recover to lost detail from the shadow during post processing than from brown out highlights. So, mas maganda yung underexposed photo kasi kahit madilim, madali mo siya ma-recover. Unlike sa overexposed, maano talaga siya, like brightest talaga siya. So mahirap mo i-recognize kung ano yung pinapakita ng pictures. Aperture is the adjustable opening in camera lens that controls how much light reaches the sensor, similar the pupil of the human eye. It's measured in f-stop, example f-1.8 and f16, where a lower number indicates a wider opening and more lights, while higher number signifies a narrow opening and less light. So aperture also affect the depth of field with wide aperture creating a shallow depth of field, blurry background, and a narrow aperture producing a deep depth of field, more of the image in focus. For example, if you want a portrait with a blurry background, use 1.8, and then if you're taking a landscaping that must be sharp, use 6 f f-16. So, depth of field is a range of distance in a photograph where objects appear acceptably sharp. It can be either shallow, which means only a small area is focused, and the foreground or background is a blurred. So, often used for a portrait or deep where a large portion of the scenes is in focus from the foreground to background. So, used for landscape, you can control depth of field by adjusting the camera's aperture, focal length, and distance from the subject.
I am Rochelle Balches, so this time I will tackle the shutter speed. Shutter speed. The function of the shutter mechanism is to admit light into the camera and onto the digital media or film for a specific length of time. Faster shutter speed means less light on the image sensors, and slower shutter speed means more light. For example, kung nagpipicture ka ng motor na mabilis yung takbo, you can use faster shutter speed para ma-freeze yung galaw ng motor. Pero if you want the motion effect, you can use slower shutter speed para makita mo yung galaw ng motor. The next one is shutter speed and motion capture. Controls the amount of time the shutter or curtain is open. Shutter speeds is measured on the fractions of seconds. Depending on the camera, it may show the shutter speed without the numerator, i.e. 250 instead of 1/250. A doubling or halving of the time value, TV percent, and one stop of EB. Like for example, the fast shutter speed. Example, mabilis yung takbo. Like, gumagalaw siya ng 1/1000. And the slower shutter speed, gumagalaw siya ng 1/30. And the next is film speed ISO. It means in values using ISO numbers. ISO stands for International Organizations of Standardizations with both analog and digital. Camera's ISO refers to the same light, the light sensitive of either the film or imaging sensors. Film speeds ISO. Ito kung ilang ilaw yung gamitin para paano malinaw yung picture. And then we have two ISO, the low and the high. Sa low, dito sa low, it's not sensitive. Kaya mas maganda siya gamitin pag maaraw o sa maliwanag na lugar. Kasi gumaganda or lumilinaw yung picture pag sa maaraw o sa maliwanag na lugar kasi hindi siya sensitibo sa light. And then the high ISO is sensitive. Kaya you need to take a shoot sa madilim pero pero nagkakaroon siya ng grain sa camera or nagkakaroon siya ng noise. Yun yung dalawang high and low. Yung sa low, hindi siya sensitive. And then sa high, sensitive siya. Kaya yung sa low, kailangan siya, it's not kailangan talaga, mas maganda siya sa maaraw o sa maliwanag. And then sa high, sensitive siya. Kaya mas maganda siya mag-take ng mag-shoot siya sa madilim. Kaso nga lang nag-gain siya ng kaso nga lang meron siyang gain and noise sa picture.
So, the power of vision of words. So, when we say the power of vision of words, it will serve an effective cognitive motivational tools that enables individuals to articulate, visualize, and reinforce their personal and professional goals. So, by integrating a symbolic image, keywords, and aspirational statement, vision boards enhance goal clarity and inspirational statements, and also promote a proactive mindset or positive mindset. So they functions as visual reminders that support self-regulations, intentional actions, and long-term commitment to desire the outcomes. The outcomes. So, in the field of photography, a comprehensive understanding of lighting is essential for producing high quality visual outputs. So, lighting is characterized by primary two fundamental properties, which is the directions and colors. So, the colors of lights measures at degrees of Kelvin. So, throughout the day, due to natural environment conditions, these variations influence the tonal quality, atmosphere, and psychological impact of the photographic image. Since since the different colors temperature evoke distinct emotional responses, so the photographers must critically assess and, and manipulate the lighting to achieve the intended aesthetics and, and also to achieve the extended aesthetics and expressive effect of the photo. So lighting directions. When we say lighting directions, it was pertain to the specific angle and rotations from which illumination reach a subject. So this factor is significantly influence and distribution of shadow and highlights. So these are shaping the subject's form, depth, and visual emphasis. So by adjusting the direction of light allows the photographers to manipulate the mood and dimensionally of an image, ranging from soft and subtle effects to highly dramatic presentations. So lighting of colors. So when we say lighting of colors, it was refers to the perceive of warmth and coolness of lights. It was commonly quantified using color temperature in Kelvin. So as natural light shifts throughout the day, it was color temperature change, producing varying atmospheres within a photograph. So this variation influences viewer psychological and emotional responses. As warm hues tend and evoke comfort, the familiarity, whereas cooler tones convey calmness and calmness or tensions. So, so by understanding the lighting of colors is essential for achieving the intended expansive and aesthetics impact of the photographer work.
So now I will tackle the post-processing. Post-processing, it refers to the step done after capturing a photo to improve or enhance it. It cannot be completely fix a very bad photo, but it can greatly improve the quality, colors, sharpness, and overall appearance. So meaning, ang post-processing, ito ang mga ginagawa nating step pagkatapos natin magkuha ng picture para mas maganda. Hindi kaya nitong ayusin ang pangit na pagkakuha ng picture. Pero kaya nitong maging presentable ang picture na kinuha natin. So now we have a 4 step of post-processing. So the first one is fine tuning of raw file. A raw file contains full image data from the camera. Fine tuning means adjusting the photo's exposure, contrast, sharpness, and color before exporting it. So for example, you took an underexposed picture in Lightroom, you increase the exposure, add contrast, and sharpen that image. The second step is converting raw files cannot be viewed easily on all devices. You convert them to JPG, PNG, or TIFF so they can be opened and shared it. Example, after editing a raw file, you export it to JPG so you can upload it to Facebook. So we have a step 3. Editing JPG to remove unwanted picture. So, meaning sometimes you need to clean or fix the photo by removing distraction or imperfection. So we have a last step of post-processing, mixing various files to achieve a creative result. This means binding multiple photos to create a new artistic or enhanced output. Example, you combine a portrait photo with a sunset background to create a creative double exposure effect. So we have a next slide. Post-processing software. Two main ways editing happens. The one is algorithms automatically adjust the pixel data. Software uses built-in formulas to automatically improve the image. Example, Auto Enhance button in Lightroom that instantly fixes exposure and contrast. The second one is manually selecting and replacing pixel data with new data. The editor manually changes specific details in the photo. For example, using Photoshop to change the color of someone's t-shirt or remove the blemishes from a face. So we have a next slide. Workflow of post-processing. So we have a 6 workflow of post-processing. The first one is exposure value adjustment. Controls how bright or dark the photo is. Example, brightening the dark photo taken indoors. So the second one is white balance adjustment. Corrects the color temperature so white look truly white. Example, a photo taken under yellow light is corrected to look natural. So number is high and tone adjustment. High changes the color family. Tone changes its brightness and intensity. Example, turning a blue sky into teal or making skin tone warmer. The 4 is highlight and shadow recovery. Brings back details and very bright highlights or dark shadows erase. Example, recovering the details of a bright sky that looks washed out. The 5 is vibrance and saturation adjustment. Controls the intensity of colors. Saturation increase all colors. Vibrance boasts mute colors without overdoing skin tone. Example, making the colors of a flower photo look richer and more lively. The last one is cropping and rotation. Used to improve composition, strengthen entitled image, or remove unwanted edge. Example, cropping a photo to center the subject and remove empty space. That's all the our presentation.